The story begins with a general take of the grand Frillish kingdom. In a courtyard, a large tent and a parade carriage are being prepared. A young man, Unibus, babbling unbelievingly in front of shocking news. He's in front of the group of heroes, led by calm and compound Brabin. Unibus confronts Brabin, demanding to know why everything is happening so suddenly. The group warrior coldly informs that he is there for maintenance, not as a companion. The Manga girl adds that although she had fun, they will not talk during the trip. The priestess, Trance, reveals that they were merely observing their ability to tame spirits. Unibus panics, insisting that it's bad with people and not good for that role. Raban's face twists into a cruel expression while pretending ignorance. Unibus retreats, his eyes wide with shock and horror. A memory turns in his mind, showing Brabin calling him garbage. Unibus tries to argue, mentioning the magical horse and the spirits. Brabin disdainfully smiles disdainfully at his concerns about the mechanical horse. He boasts arrogantly that he can handle maintenance alone. With a sudden roar, Brabin kicks the mechanical beast away. Unibus shouts Trance's name on alarm. While Brabin turns against her, he moves on desperately, trying to make Brabin stop. Trance looks down on Unibus, saying he shouldn't touch her with his hands anyway. Unibus kneels on the ground, completely defeated and alone. From his perspective, he reaches out, asking Trance if she's okay. Brabin rises above him, declaring that he is not part of his group. His face turns into a monstrous mask while offering to take care of the Unibus. Later, a wounded Unibus is thrown into an alley trash. A close-up reveals your purple, swollen face. The night sky darkens on the rooftops of the city. A narration explains that heroes have accomplished great deeds. They became a king, a great sage, a great saint, and a great general. The narration changes the focus, continuing, and as for me, Unibus has found a new purpose in a center for research and development of magical tools. He works diligently, finding peace and contentment between machines. He wipes the sweat off his forehead after a long day's work. He talks softly to a mechanical horse, saying, "It will work well again now." A colleague observes him, perplexed by his habit of talking to the equipment. Unibus walks down the hall, carrying a folder of documents. Your attention is suddenly attracted by a warning on the warning board. It is a poster of the wedding of the Spirit of the Wind, with Typhon. He whispers her name, wondering if the spirit bride is all right. A colleague approaches from behind. Calling his name, he hastily informs Unibus that his superior is calling for him. Unibus looks up with a little concern on his face. Your boss, Gordian, sitting behind a desk, fires him directly. Unibus is amazed, only able to maintain a silent expression. Gordian explains that Unibus' habit of talking to equipment is frightening. Unibus tries to explain that it is to avoid failures, but it is ignored. Gordian complains that he received complaints from other colleagues. He points a finger at Unibus, highlighting his final decision. Without words, Unibus can't defend himself. Gordian reveals that he erased his name from his creations. Taking credit, Unibus' gaze widens from shock to the depth of this betrayal. Gordian boasts that Unibus' popular work guaranteed him a promotion to minister. With an arrogant and condescending smile, Gordian despises his now useless subordinate. The scene goes back to the city's wooden structure constructions. Unibus walks the streets alone, depressed and unemployed again. He sighs, thinking to himself that he needs to find a new job. Listen to the women talking excitedly about the wedding of the bride spirit of the wind. You suddenly realize that Typhon's wedding ceremony is today. A wide shot shows the public ceremony taking place on a hill. At the altar, the bride and groom stand before the celebrant. Hidden in the crowd below, a hooded Unibus observes events unfold. He thinks to himself that Typhon looks incredibly beautiful. Looking at the stage, he sincerely desires for his happiness. He remembers that Trance declared that Typhon would swear eternal loyalty to the hero. The expression of Unibus hardens with a resolute, silent determination. He recalls the common belief that spirits exist to serve the needs of mankind. He thinks to himself that this idea is completely wrong. You may feel that this forced ceremony is not what Typhon really wants. Crowd members murmur that Typhon must be nervous. Someone in the public shouts encouragement, telling her to do her best. Typhon beckons to them. Suddenly, Typhon sights Unibus in the crowd and wave with a little hopeful hand. Unibus is surprised, questioning if they really looked at each other. He then nods back. Typhon suddenly starts running down the aisle at a frightening speed, while our guy looks at the unbelieving scene. A close-up shows Typhon falling through a rain of flower petals. His face is not of terror, but of joyful relief and tears. She reaches Unibus, calling him by name with a radiant smile. Unibus prepares, holding her safely in his arm. The strength of their momentum makes them stumble and roll over the ground. Typhon faces him, demanding to know why he's not dead. She explains that the hero told her he was dead. She claims, with anger and tears, that she despises heroes. Unibus feels the wind spinning around them as chaos continues. The groom lies stunned and defeated on the destroyed stage. Typhon holds Unibus' hand, saying they can talk about the details later. Amid the petals of the flowers, she tells him they're escaping. She pulls him as the royal guards begin to approach. Running into a nearby forest, she takes him in her arms and carries him. Unibus, nervous, wondering why he's being dragged by the bride. In a courtyard full of petals, the defeated hero Braben kneels alone. Your face is a pure and desolate surprise mask. A close-up reveals his eye, red and boiling with anger. His mouth twitches when he opens himself into a monstrous growl. He goes on, screaming about the disrespectful that dared to challenge him. He orders his guards to form a perimeter and capture Unibus. The winged delegation of spirits asks if he really intends to capture the girl. Braben runs towards them, ignoring his counselor's requests for calm. He growls he won't let them escape with those words. Meanwhile, Unibus and Typhon look up surprised on a city street. Typhon points out, shouting the name of the mechanical horse. An ornamented carriage has the inscription, Braben Hero Love Carriage. Unibus is surprised to see the family scene. He caresses the horse while Typhon asks if he knows. Proudly, he explains that he is the first magical horse he ever built. Typhon points out that someone else's name is in your chassis. The manufacturer's mark clearly says Gordian made. Unibus' face hardens as he curses that treacherous bastard Gordian. Typhon encourages him to go into a trance and escape from the guards closing in. They quickly get on the empty stopcar. The sounds of his hasty preparations echo through the alley. Unibus observes with severity that the vocal device of the horse was destroyed. He promises to fix it and erase the manufacturer's fake brand. Suddenly, they're completely surrounded by armed royal guards. Unibus and Typhon watch with concerned expressions. A view above shows that they are desperately outnumbered, while he calls by her name. She panics, screaming they'll get caught like this. Unibus realizes something's wrong. Trance should be a first-class model. He's surprised by your sudden insight. He asks her to switch places with him, confusing her. He explains that trance works with earth spirits, while it has an affinity for wind. The royal guard runs towards them, sword up. With a sharp scream, Typhon unleashes a powerful wind blast. The concentrated wind makes the soldier stagger back. She turns around, offering her power to Unibus to help escape. He accepts your offer with a determined and grateful smile. He jumps on the horse's back, surprising Typhon with his agility. Taking the reins, he addresses his creation by name, Trance. He commands the spirits of the earth within him to move as he wishes. From a hidden compartment, something begins to move. The little spirits of the earth emerge, asking if he is an enemy. He tells them he's tired of being pushed by the hero. He encourages them to fight, and they explode in screams of loyalty. Unibus concentrates. The carriage moves at an impossible speed. Typhon is thrown back, screaming with an exhaled surprise of ecstasy. The guards ahead see the street starting to crack. The cobblestones shake and explode from the ground below them. The soldiers they pursue are thrown by the chaotic debris. The mechanical horse's paws are tense, preparing for a powerful jump. The whole carriage begins to rise from the ground. It rises through the air, flying high above the heads of the guards. They fly gracefully down the street, leaving chaos in their wake. Typhon celebrates madly from the bottom, screaming for Trance to move on. Unibus tightens the reins, screaming for them to catch him, while Typhon accidentally pushes a button on the carriage. And something is triggered. Flower petals begin to be thrown in the air. Another compartment behind reveals itself. There are several cans with decorative ribbons. The sound of the chariot becomes evident as they pass by, and the people there turn their attention to the carriage at high speed. Typhon excited smiles with the comments of the newly married. Typhon smiles with a radiant smile and absolutely cheerful. Unibus reciprocates her smile with a new trust in her eyes. The little spirits of the earth begin to work on the banner of the carriage. They switched the signal to Unibus, and his servants worship the carriage. One of the proud spirits makes a triumphant positive sign. Back on the property, Braben asks the winged man what he wants now. The winged person questions your intention to capture the maiden. She declares that not even a hero could call his queen a maiden. Braben snaps his tongue with impatience, a drop of sweat on his face. She says, capturing Unibus now is the top priority. Braben is surprised to realize she knows the name Unibus. The delegation asks if Unibus is dead, as they have been informed. Braben panics, frantically denying having said something like that. The woman reveals that Typhon fled because she saw Unibus was alive. Braben disqualifies Unibus like a pervert, a taboo name. The whole delegation of spirits retreats horrified and disgusted. They ask in anger how he can be so rude to their friend. Braben is speechless, sweating, and completely confused. The woman explains that Typhon accepted the marriage because he lied about Unibus' death. She says they'll investigate because they can't trust him anymore. They leave, promising never to forgive you if Unibus is alive. In a clearing in the forest, Typhon comments that they somehow escape. The spirits of the earth cry for relief, glad Unibus is alive. Unibus thanks you all for your help. caressing the head of a spirit. Typhon watches the moment suit with a happy smile, like a cat. He interacts gently with the spirits while she watches with affection. He caresses Typhon's head, thanking him too. She blushes happy. Unibus observes it with a gentle and serene expression. A quiet and peaceful moment passes between the two fugitives. He asks if she's really sure she wants to run. She inflames her cheeks, saying, "Of course." It explains that she was devastated after hearing that he was dead. Approaching shyly, she confesses that she likes him. He smiles warmly, answering that he likes her too. Typhon's romantic hopes are destroyed by exclaiming, confused and nervous. Minor spirits observe, silent, the unfolding of drama. Unibus happily includes spirits who vibrate in their affection for Typhon. Completely ashamed, Typhon screams out of frustration for his little intelligence. She painfully beats him in the chest, calling him an idiot several times. Suddenly, his anger dissolves, and she embraces him. Tears of joy run down her face as she sobs how glad he's alive. Unibus smiles kindly, sincerely thanking Typhon for his emotional words. After he calms down, Typhon asks what his plans are for the future. He promises to restore his abused mechanical horse, Trans, to his former glory. It reveals the cursed Bran, explaining his mission to Contival to remove it. Typhon immediately jumps up, declaring enthusiastically that he will accompany you. She despises her concerns, ensuring that the news of her journey will reach her people. Knowing that she will follow him anyway, he reluctantly agrees, while she insists. With the path decided, Typhon celebrates that they are going to Contival. A wanted sign is shown, which grossly depicts Unibus and the girl. The hero Braben's hand closes violently when he sees the offensive warning, crushing it hard. His face wriggles with rage as he swears to make them lick his boots. Typhon smiles brilliantly, welcoming his new traveling companions. The little spirits of the earth cry with joy for being included in the group. Unibus tells Typhon she needs to get along with the other spirits. She agrees with his condition. Excitedly telling him to hurry up and leave, she pauses, a thoughtful question mark appearing over her head. She realizes that her beautiful wedding dress is too flashy to travel, with a smile. I was running to the carriage to change. Unibus waits patiently, hearing noises of moving leaves coming from inside the carriage. He stands beside the carriage, wondering what else needs to be done. He turns when he hears Typhon calling his name excited, coming from behind him. She presents her new adventure suit and asks what he thinks. Unibus is surprised. His eyes look out for the family bracelet on her wrist. He notes that she's still wearing the bracelet he once gave her. She explains with a shy smile that's why it was a gift from him. Unibus is touched by his words, with a warm and gentle smile on his face. Typhon, with his eyes closed with expectation, has an important question for Unibus. She proudly presents her new adventurous outfit, asking what he thinks. Unibus smiles warmly, saying that the new clothes match it perfectly. She shines with happiness, explaining that this is the first time she has worn Western-style clothes, closely supported. She whispers that she wants him to see her many sides. Typhon asks if Unibus will also change. Saying that there are many clothes inside, Unibus gets confused, questioning what she means by too much inside. He is shocked to see that she reveals a richly decorated living room inside the carriage. The carriage even brings a full kitchen, made for a honeymoon tour with 8 people. Typhon excitedly calls Unibus to come see another room. Inside, it reveals an equally magnificent and fully furnished room. She lurks behind a big wardrobe, full of clothes. The wardrobe is full of a variety of sophisticated and bright dresses. She asks which one he prefers, but Unibus politely says it will pass. Outside, Unibus decides that they need to disguise the carriage with wooden boards. He explains that they can simply ask local forest spirits for help. Typhon accepts the task with confidence, boasting that wind and wood are friends. She wielded a big hatchet, preparing to make her request to the forest. With a loud scream, she runs to the nearby forest. Unibus watches as she approaches a large tree with great determination. She stands before the tree, ready to talk to the spirits that inhabit there. She returns discouraged, reporting that the spirits refused because it would hurt. Unibus decides he'll try to talk to them. He walks calmly into the forest, stopping before a big old tree. He offers the spirit a simple and friendly greeting. The leaves of the ancient tree move with the sound of his voice. A tree voice recognizes him, asking if he's the Unibusan. A forest spirit explains that they know him through the ley lines of the earth. He politely asks for wood, promising to do so without causing pain. The spirit is extremely happy, noting that most humans are ignored and cruel. Unibus reflects that ordinary people cannot see such spirits. The spirit of the wood declares that all the trees are honored to help him. Typhon observes, unbelieving, realizing that their reaction to her was completely different. With the blessing of the forest, the work of disguise the carriage begins with sharpness. Unibus holds a firm log, while Typhon brings the axe to break it. Together they lift up heavy boards with the help of their spiritual little friends. The collaborative effort is a success, and the whole team celebrates with joy. With an expression of satisfaction, Unibus declares that they are ready. Typhon lifts his fist in the air, celebrating the finished makeup. The expression of Unibus is serious when asking Typhon about a particular device. She makes a face, clearly reliving the unpleasant memory of what he is referring to. He remembers a spectral figure chained to the carriage, a binding tool for spirits. Unibus condemns the group of heroes, calling their cruel actions insane. Typhon looks at him, with an expression loaded with a silent and deep understanding. A soft, knowledgeable smile spreads across her face as she hears it. She asks if something's wrong, but he makes sure it's okay. She says he's different from others who see spirits as objects. He agrees, stating that every life, human or spirit, is equally precious. Typhon now understands why the forest spirits were so willing to help him. With tears of joy, she thanks him for recognizing them and their value. Unibus is stunned by his sincere gratitude, his heart skipping a beat. With the preparations completed, they agree to leave for Conterville. The journey will take at least 3 days with the carriage in this condition. They hope to reach the border smoothly along the way. However, their simple car is already being watched by city guards. Typhon whispers the name of Unibus, his voice full of growing concern. As they approach the border, they find their way blocked by a giant army. Surrounded, Unibus decides in a dark way that they have no choice but to try a break in resistance. He calls his reliable mechanical horse Trance, asking for his strength. Faithful earth spirits respond with a unified, enthusiastic battle cry. The wheels of the chariot spin madly as they advance toward the military blockade. They run forward with an impossible speed, a blur of motion against the sun, taking down all the soldiers and carriages ahead. She comments that they managed to pass, but our boy realizes something else. A second barrier has been spotted, but this time it's stakes that block the way. Typhon is terrified without knowing what they can do about it. But our guy has an idea. He asks her to use her powers. She doesn't understand what he's up. He explains that she needs to use her affinity with the wind. Typhon understands emergency. Trying to concentrate, he says, "Hell, try." She channels her magic to try to protect them. The winds begin to hear their cry, but she looks in despair, thinking she failed. Your emotion takes hold at this moment. Our guy says it's too early to be discouraged. He points to heaven, asking the entities to gather there. This request is in the depths of the earth, and takes more and more an absurd scale. Suddenly, some begin to respond. And then, several answers are heard. The creatures begin to gather. So much so that they scare our boys by the massive amount. Typhon gets a little upset about his lack of skill. The creatures involve the carriage. As they continue to advance at full speed, before you know it, your speed increases, and the carriage comes off the ground. Soldiers look at that scene in complete disbelief. In a miraculous feat, the whole chariot suddenly ascends to heaven. Typhon frantically celebrates, praising Unibus and his amazing flying horse. Tranced, he is suddenly surprised to feel a soft touch on his hand. A close-up reveals that shy Typhon took his hand shyly. He turns to her, surprised by the gesture, and pronounces his name with doubt. Ashamed, Typhon stutters, with a reddish face while trying to find the words. She explains that she was worried he might fall, and that she thought it would be dangerous. Unibus smiles warmly, understanding your concern, and thanks for your kindness. Typhon smiles radiant, with a happy smile, his cheeks glowing with deep shyness. They look ahead while Typhon observes that, although there are no roads in the sky, their way is clear. The solitary carriage flies over the landscape, addressing its final destination, Conterbale. In a big hall, Typhon's task force meeting is underway. The hero, Braben, radiates in anger, demands to know why the fugitives have not yet been captured. The Minister of Magic, Gordian, proves arrogant by ensuring that his new soldiers will catch the rats. Braben releases a small grunt of irritation, showing disdain for Gordian's confidence. An aide breaks into the compound, announcing that Typhon's carriage has just crossed the border. Gordian screams, completely unbelieving, demanding to know how this happened. The helper stutters that the carriage flew through the sky. Gordian's face wriggles with confusion and skepticism in the face of the unbelievable account. He rejects it as a ridiculous fairy story, insisting it must have been some kind of illusion. Braben beats his fist on the table, screaming Gordian's name in fury. He explains that the magical horse can really fly by lending the power of the spirits of the wind. Gordian covers his mouth with his hands, pretending to be shocked, like he doesn't know that skill. Braben questions with anger how Gordian didn't know. Since he built it, Gordian starts sweating nervously, stuttering while trying to explain that he let the rats escape. He quickly claims that he let them escape on purpose, a statement that surprises Braben. Gordian manically declares that all this is part of his grand plan, Operation Vicious Wanted Poster. He imagines a massive campaign of defamation, spreading posters showing Unibus as a hideous villain. Braben hits the table again, this time with enthusiastic approval. He smiles with predatory pleasure, calling it a brilliant idea, exactly what he expected from Gordian. Gordian releases a nervous and flattering laugh, satisfied with the compliment. Braben orders him to make the wanted posters immediate. His face twitches in a dark and sinister expression as he savors the idea of revenge. The next day, the scene changes to a busy street in the city. A horse-drawn carriage makes noise as it passes through the stone pavement. Braben, using a simple disguise, peeking through a window, tries to capture the public's reaction. He sees a great crowd gathered around a panel of public warnings. Two posters are displayed, the defamatory officer and an extra newspaper edition showing a happy couple. An enlarged picture of the newspaper reveals Typhon and Unibus smiling, making signs of peace. Braben's initial reaction is a diversion to conflicting information. The crowd debate what story is true, coming to the conclusion that the real picture of the newspaper is the truth. A man argues that Typhon was not kidnapped, but taken by the Unibus man. Another joke says that's why Braben is surprisingly low. The crowd bursts into laughter with the insult to the hero. Braben's face squirms in a mask of pure fury, while screaming that it's not short. The scene returns to the grand architecture and towers of the palace. Braben walks into the council chamber screaming Gordian's name. He's received by silent eyes and judges of the whole delegation of the spirits. They raise both posters, demanding Braben explain himself. The leader reveals that he discovered that Unibos is still alive and that he began his own secret investigation. She calls him furiously the lowest of all, a liar of a hero. It informs that the king of the spirits is angry and demands a sincere response. Braben finally loses his mind, screaming that the alliance of spirits can go to hell. He complains that Unibus is a pervert with a strange collection of shot glasses. He declares that if it gets serious, he can easily destroy their country and tell everyone to die. The delegation of spirits turns their backs on him, he asserting that this is how it should have been from the beginning, leaving him alone in the hall. The king, dressed in dark armor, announces that a message has arrived, breaking the alliance. He confronts his son with a cold voice, demanding to know what he was thinking. Braben tries to deviate, claiming that the minister was too insolent with the spirits. The king's shadow approaches him. His voice is a low growl while ordering silence. Braben is surprised, completely silent and subdued by his father's authority. The king reveals his own imperial ambitions, no longer needing the help of the spirit. He struck a devastating blow, declaring that Braben's commitment to the princess is officially cancelled, orders Braben to re-establish the alliance today, refusing to tolerate his incompetence. Braben's over there, alone and completely defeated in the vast empty hall. The hero Braben is amazed, questioning how his great self could be considered incompetent. The delegation of severe and inflexible spirits faces him, awaiting his response. Dissuaded, Braben lowers his head in a deep and humiliating reverence of excuses. He apologizes, asking you to forgive his earlier words now that he's bowing. But in his mind, his face twitches in a smile of pure hatred. The delegation of spirits calmly affirms that they expect a sincere response. Braben faces with contempt, his face contorted by an almost uncontrollable anger and frustration. He quickly hides his anger behind a forced, uncomfortable, and unconvincing smile. He fights with the delegation, screaming that he doesn't want to bow his head. The leader of the delegation, coldly, informs that they no longer consider him a great one. Braben is shocked by his words, his eyes full of disbelief and horror. He gasps, realizing he's being called the apex of incompetence. His fists, clenched beside his body, tremble with impotent fury and shame. Finally, it collapses, pressing the forehead on the ground in a complete digesa. The leader of the delegation corrects him, saying he still does not understand the situation. Braben looks up, with his face a mask of despair and confusion bathed in tears. He argues that apologizing now is useless, since Unibus and Typhon are not there. The leader of the delegation says that this is significant because they can convey their sincerity. Brabin retorts abruptly, with his teeth on display, declaring that he would rather die than apologize. He points to the obvious fact that the two are not present. The delegation stands firm, stating that if he refuses, the alliance is broken. The weight of failure finally ends with the spirit of Brabin, whose lip shakes. He collapses completely, crying an excuse for Typhon for his cruelty. The spirits are visibly shocked and disturbed by their pitiful emotional outburst. Brabin continues his desperate and whiny performance with his face broken, so he directs his apology to Unibus, promising to reinstate him as a minister. His excuse becomes a grotesque presentation, with tears running, of pure despair. The spiritual delegation observes its collapse, recording the whole pathetic scene. Brabin, seeing the magic device, asks what they're doing to him. A delegate explains that he can record videos and audios, unlike a simple photograph. The leader orders his subordinates to quickly distribute the recording to the press. Brabin unleashes a primal cry of terror, realizing that his reputation is destroyed. He's moving towards a deputy, screaming, trying to stop the recording from being released. The other spirits look disdainfully as he completely loses his composure. The delegation leader declares that the alliance is totally and irretrievably broken. Brabin begs them to stop, asking them not to release the video. He is surrounded and restrained by spiritual beings, screaming for forgiveness, while you're having a tantrum on the floor like a child. Far away, Unibus and Typhon cross the border to the kingdom of Warswamp. Typhon points excited to a sparkling lake, amazed by its shining beauty. She explains that Warswamp is famous for its many lakes and ponds. His eyes light up with pure joy when he declares he wants to see him. Unibus smiles, remembering that as a princess, Typhon never left the country. He agrees with a little detour, and she thanks with a vibrant joy. He calmly gives the order to his mechanical horse, Trance, to change direction. They arrive at an animated locker room on the edge of Lake Rockwat. The area is full of people in bikinis, laughing and enjoying barbecues. Typhon is impressed by the vibrant scene, but Unibus just wants to leave. Typhon, however, casts a hopeful look at him, wanting to explore the resort. Unibus observes with a slightly concerned and overloaded expression. He takes a unique and hesitant step towards the wooden runway. A rude voice stops them in their way, asking them to wait. A muscle manager, wearing a shirt very admired by heroes, asks if they are together. Unibus is shocked by the exorbitant entry fee, saying he has no money. The manager explains that it is the price of hero for any establishment linked to Brabin's fame. Unibus notices signs of Heros Inn and Heros Diner, perceiving deception. The manager snitches, asking how they can be so old and still have no money. He offers a deal. A girl in a bathing suit gets a discount or even free admission. Typhon's eyes spread with a sudden and determined idea as she calls herself Unibus. She tells him to wait, and leaves quickly before he can protest. A moment later, she comes back, saying she's back and ready to go. She takes on a confident pose in a new and lively swimsuit, leaving everyone dazzled. The manager signs positive with both arms, granting them free entry. Typhon sings happily as they walk, enjoying the carefree atmosphere of the beach. Your presence. immediately draws the attention of some men without shirts nearby. Men are fascinated by Typhon's beauty, with their mouths open in admiration. They approach her, asking if she's alone, and offering to let her serve them. Unibus' protector puts an arm around her while she claims to serve only him. Unibus, a little embarrassed, recognizes his bold posture as a joke. Disappointed men beat their tongues and walk away, leaving the couple alone. Typhon leans down happily next to Unibus, enjoying the proximity. Unibus tells her she can let go now, but she grumbles in protest. She smiles, suggesting they continue the walk along the edge, just like that. Unibus notices two other men whispering about how cute Typhon is. He breathes a sigh, but agrees, and they walk together, arm in arm. They walked along the picturesque edge of the vast lake, enjoying the view. Typhon comments on how cold water is invigorating on such a hot day. Unibus is worried that his work clothes will get dirty and hell smell oil. Typhon reassures him, saying that this is proof of his efforts by the spirits. Then she knocks him down with an attack, refusing to release his new position. His stomach suddenly emits a cute little purring, signaling his hunger. Unibus realizes they haven't eaten all morning, a smile coming up on his face. He suggests they have a barbecue, since they're at a beachside resort. Typhon's face lights up with pure and unrestricted joy with the idea. They find an empty barbecue in a pleasant and shaded forest near the lake. An employee brings them a lot of food called Mosen set. Unibus meticulously prepares the grill, fixing the charcoal carefully. It lights the coals with mastery, ensuring a perfect and uniform heat for cooking. With the grill ready, he prepares to cook the tasty food. The delicious aroma draws the attention of a group of nearby bathers. Thick, juicy steaks pop on the grill, with the fat melting beautifully. The other bathers look with envy, their own food losing in brightness compared. Unibus serves the first piece of steak, perfectly cooked to a grateful Typhon. The smoking piece of meat is soft and juicy, shining on the fork. Typhon opens his mouth wide, ready to take his first bite. She bites. Her cheeks swell while savoring the incredible flavor. She chews with enthusiasm, the delicious taste dominating her senses. The soft flesh is so good it can barely contain its happiness. She swallows and exclaims it's the most delicious thing she's ever eaten. Tell Unibus, it's the first time you've proved something so wonderful. He smiles, saying that there is still much more, while preparing seafood on the grill. Typhon marvels at the sweetness of shrimps. While enjoying the sweet seafood, she whispers of pure joy, lost in the delight of perfectly cooked food. Nearby, a group of bathers enviously observes the superior barbecue of Unibus. Unibus casts a look at the fighting group, a critical idea forming in his mind. He appreciates that their fire is too strong, making it impossible for a good barbecue. You know, the secret is to cook with constant heat and radiance, not with direct flames and burning. Invisible to others, a little spirit works its magic among the pieces of food that fry. Unibus smiles, thanking the spirits of Madeira fire for making possible the perfect barbecue. The spirit of Madeira says it is an honor, while others only see it as something to burn. The two spirits embrace each other with affection, radiant by being barbecued with Unibus again. A diagram shows how the union of fire and wood spirits creates an ideal and delicious heat. Unibus knows that spirits hate to be forced to perform tasks against their nature. Working together, their bond strengthens, creating a flame of more effective love. After eating, Typhon draws the attention of Unibus, ready to share his food in return. With a bright smile, she plays and offers a piece of food from her form. Ask him if it's delicious, happy to feed him, since he made all the cooking. Unibus agrees it's fine, but he thinks it looks like an import. He looks at a large plate, remembering that the local taste of Mozan is supreme. The board is a fishing board, with the capture of 70 kg of Brabant hero first. Unibus remembers, with a jump, that he was the one who was forced to take that staged photo. He turns to Typhon, his expression becoming more serious, with a renewed determination. With a confident smile, he declares that he will let her taste a true Mozan. She asks if what they ate was fake, but he clarifies that the local fish is better. Two close men mock his claim, questioning whether he can actually catch a Mozan. They tease him, saying he'll be eaten alive just for trying to show off to the girl, predicting that he will either drown or be devoured by the famously ferocious fish. Impossible. Unibus passes through the crowd that mocks and heads to the water bank. He squats by the lake, waves gently licking the sand. He talks to the lake, asking if he'll share a Mosan with him like last time. The surface of the water begins to create waves and rotate in response to its call. A serene, feminine face appears in the water, the ancient lake spirit. The spirit greets Unibus by name, saying he had been waiting for his return. She tells him she's got a Mosan saved for him and asks him to snap his fingers. The viewers watch as he walks away, wondering if he's given up. Unibus turns with a confident smile and snaps his fingers with a strong snap. The surface of the lake begins to bubble and violently stirring. The water explodes in a huge spray geyser and spinning foam. A giant Mosan rises from the depths, flying high over an amazing Unibus. Unibus looks up with a calm and confident smile. While the water sneezes around him, Typhon observes the incredible scene, with his face a mask of pure, joyous shock. The crowd of bathers gets stiff, mouthy, before the miracle. The giant fish falls with a deafening bang on the coast, stirring at his feet. Unibus calmly explains to the astonished spectators that this is spiritual fishing. The scene takes place under a clear sky, the legendary feat completed. Typhon is ecstatic, praising how incredibly impressive Unibus is. A group of women approaches to see the big fish while Typhon jumps for joy. Women comment on capture, saying that the best men always get the biggest fish. The other men raise the fish on the scale, shouting that it weighs 100 kilos. They praise Unibus profusely, admitting they knew he wasn't an ordinary person. They start taking the fish to cut, declaring the fish as a party for everyone. When they start cutting the fish, Typhon screams furiously for them to wait. She demands to know why they are eating the fish without asking permission. With fair anger, she screams that Unibus caught that fish especially for her. A man argues that such a large capture should be shared, but it categorically refuses. She scolds them for mocking Unibus earlier, and now wants a piece of her prize. The crowd of men is silent, with their heads down in a collective shame. Everyone does a deep dogza, apologizing and promising never to mock him again. Typhon considers their excuse insincere and demands that they repeat it properly. She reports severely that they will not receive any fish until the apology is perfect. Unibus observes, noting how rigid she is when dealing with humans. With the undisciplined crowd now respectful, Unibus and Typhon prepare to leave. The crowd thanks them for Mozan and promises to pass on the legend of Unibus. Unibus and Typhon wave goodbye, while their new fans wish good luck on the journey. While the carriage swings along the way, Unibus reflects on the surprising events of the day, He says he only gave the crowd the hard shell, which he doesn't like. Typhon remembers how everyone seemed to like eating the fish together. She sighs happily, declaring that it was the most intense fun of her life. Unibus smiles, agreeing he's glad they made the detour. Typhon looks at him with a warm and sincere smile, his evident happiness. She thanks you again for the wonderful day as you continue your journey. With the arrival of the night, Unibus says they need to find a place to sleep. He worries that the carriage may be recognized and suggests that they camp that night. Typhon says he's fine camping anywhere, as long as he's with him. Unibus remembers a nearby village, Aiden, and suggests they search for landing there. Typhon agrees enthusiastic, and they leave for the village of Aiden. An aerial view shows the carriage approaching the small rustic village. They walk a quiet path between the trees, leading to the entrance of the village. A dark atmosphere hovers over a well surrounded by strange talismans in the form of a cross. They arrive in the village of Aiden, known as the cradle of the water pump. Typhon observes the vibrant atmosphere, wondering if they arrived during a festival. She examines a rudimentary statue. Asking if it is the heroes, she sees the pathetic and cornered figure at her feet, labeled Incompetent Unibus. She is shocked and angry to see the name of Unibus on the humiliating plaque. Furious, he says it's horrible and it doesn't look anything like him, but he calms her down. Unibus suggests they look for a place to stay first, pointing towards the center of the village. A villager carrying buckets of water accidentally beats Typhon. Typhon realizes that the water from the well he spilled is cloudy and dirty. A dead insect creature lay on the ground where contaminated water sneezed. She understands that something is seriously wrong with the village as well. A brutal man dressed in fake hero armor suddenly appears, scaring Typhon. The man recognizes Typhon, confirming his identity with a lewd look. He thinks to himself, with a smile of superiority, that here begins his part in the story. Unibus approaches cautiously from a group of village elders. The old village chief stares at him for a moment, trying to recognize his familiar face. Unibus is frightened by his intense, wrinkled look. She recognizes him as the incompetent Unibus and asks if he remembers her. The boss smiles widely, showing off his teeth, saying that of course she remembers him. She recalls how he used his skills to save his deity, Eden-sama. From the hero, she offers him shelter for the night. He vents that the well is failing and that letting the incompetent Unibus stay there will ruin everything. The village chief dispenses Unibus, telling him to leave before the meeting. Unibus worries about a misunderstanding, while Typhon questions the acting hero. When a blonde man approaches, Typhon realizes he's not the real hero. The fake hero poses as an accomplice blinking, trying to be charming. Typhon is completely repulsed by his attitude, holding the robe of Unibus with disgust. Unibus politely asks if you could please accompany them to the meeting. The village chief shouts furiously at him, calling him an idiot for asking. One of the elders draws the attention of the chief, who turns with irritation. Residents explain that the incompetent is no match for the real. The fake hero suggests that they just hand over Eden-sama to deal with the situation. The village chief considers his proposal vile with a bleak expression. With a sinister smile, the man suggests throwing Unibus into a stable. The chief fights, telling Unibus that he can stay at Iden-sama's house. The group leads Unibus and Typhon through the village decorated strangely. Typhon, worried, asks Unibus if he really goes with them. She realizes that the residents are not thinking clearly about the situation. Unibus reassures her with a smile, confident that she can clarify everything. He explains that Aiden is a spirit, so there must be a misunderstanding. The boss explains that this is where they should be. They reach the village's central well. The site of the problem, the air around the well is threatening, surrounded by strange talisman. The villagers and the fake hero swallow nervously, in expectation. The chief pushes an elder forward, ordering him to proceed. Unibus observes the scene that unfolds with a serious expression. He takes a step forward with Typhon, heading for the center of the mess. Suddenly, he's surprised by a strange sound coming from the well. A dark, slippery tentacle emerges from the opening of the well. The viewers look terrified at the horrible scene before them. A skeletal hand and a black web emerge from the dark well. A monstrous figure of long black hair begins to emerge. His only eye, scary and reddish, looks with fury from behind the wire set. The horrifying spirit reveals itself completely, emitting a silent, guttural cry. His monstrous face fills the picture with a terrifying, raging roar. The people of the village scream with fear and begin to run in panic. The fake hero is frozen with fear as the monster advances against him. He unleashes a cry of pure anguish when attacked. The hair mass of the spirit falls on the fake hero. The villagers shouted with horror at the fallen hero, who had pretended to be a Hiru. Trapped to the ground, the fake hero groans with pain and terror. The monster hovers over him, his hair flying wildly around. He makes a gesture with his fist, ready to strike a final and devastating blow. The trembling boss begs Aiden-sama to wait, pointing to the hero. She then points to Unibus, offering him as the troublesome, incapable. The monster slowly collapses upon the unconscious body of the false hero. He crawls to him, emitting a low sound, Inquisitor of Gorge. Unibus and Typhon watch the strange scene with worried expressions. With a burst of smoke, the monstrous form disappears suddenly. A small, lovely girl appears and jumps joyfully in the arms of Unibus. The viewers, including Unibus and Typhon, are blown away by shock. A flashback scene shows the hero group arriving to subdue the spirit of the source. The spirit, Aiden, was enraged after the hero poisoned his source. But the hero hugged her, and her anger apparently turned into love. The monster, Aiden, now seems to recognize a familiar presence. It moves towards Unibus with suddenly uncertain intentions. Typhon screams desperately by the name of Unibus, while Aiden flies towards him. Your face is a mask of pure shock and confusion. Aiden, with joy, embraces Unibus, exclaiming how happy he is to see him. Typhon is nervous, while Aiden praises how wonderful it is to meet again. Near there, the false hero lay unconscious and wounded on the ground. Typhon is completely puzzled by Aiden's show of affection for Unibus. The village chief demands to know why Aiden is embracing the hated Unibus. Aiden, still clinging to Unibus, says that's not true. She loves him. With a serious expression, she declares that she will reveal the truth. His memory begins with the heroes group reaching the well. They arrogantly demand that the spirit, Aiden, introduce itself to them. The spirit remains hidden, silent before its demands. The hero group waits impatiently at the edge of the well. Braben beats his tongue in irritation with the rejection of the spirit. He reveals a powerful vial of poison, intending to use it. A younger Unibus, carrying luggage, watches the scene with horror. He's sweating and with wide eyes, shocked by their cruel intentions. The fake enraged hero throwing the poison doesn't see the spirit approaching. She gives you a very satisfying punch in reward. The other members of the group watch while he is thrown to the ground. Unibus screams for the spirit to stop the brutal attack. Later that night, under the light of the full moon, Unibus finds crying Aiden sitting alone on a grass-covered hill. He tells her what they did was unforgivable, and she must not forgive them. He asks her to let him do the only thing he can to help. He raises his hands to heaven, invoking the spirits of Sirine. Small particles of light, like butterflies, begin to appear in the air. Eden watches as the spring spirits gather around her. One of the little spirits lands in his hand, purifying the poison. Unibus gently extends his hand toward the now-healed spirit. Among a whirlwind of flower petals, he warmly invites her to come. He smiles, saying everything's okay now. Eden looks at him with his eyes shining with tears of gratitude. She takes a hesitant step toward him, barefoot on the grass. He leads her into a beautiful, gentle dance under the moon's glow. Back to the present, the villagers can't believe the hero would be so cruel. Eden tells them that if they don't believe her, she has proof. She pushes the fringe away, revealing the forehead. A bright symbol, the good kanji, appears in your skin. The symbol shines brightly, a testimony of his restored power. The villagers exclaim that the Eden meter is at maximum level. 4. Eden explains that he is in a state of supreme happiness when he sees Unibus. His power overflows with joy, radiating from his body. A huge geyser of pure water explodes from the well. Symbol of your happiness. The inhabitants of Iden observe, confused by a strange noise. Suddenly, a giant geyser of clean water flows from the village well. The powerful clean water column shoots high into the night sky. The villagers tend to celebrate, mistakenly believing that the fake hero fixed their well. An old man ponders that the imposter only feels better after his tantrum crisis. The fake hero, with his face bruised and swollen, runs away with total shame. Eden appears, asking the chief to correct the misunderstanding of the villagers. She promises that the well will never run out of water if you accept the truth. Taken by shame, the village elders bow deeply to the ground. Unibus is relieved that he finally clarified the misunderstanding. He feels a small, insistent pull on the back of the mantle. Typhon is hiding behind him with his face fixed on an expression of jealousy. She looks away, clearly irritated by Iden's worship of Unibus. Unibus asks if she's angry, but she looks away, nervous. She insists that nothing is wrong, although her blushing gives her feelings. The village leader calls you with a new and deep reverence. She bows to the ground, begging Unibus for forgiveness for her rudeness. She declares him the true hero and offers lodging as an excuse. The grateful villagers begin to drive Unibus and Typhon towards the inn. Eden sits peacefully at the edge of the well, watching them leave. She explains that, as a spirit of the well, it is connected to this place. Unibus smiles and promises to visit her again before they have to leave. Her simple promise fills her with pure and unaltered joy. They arrive at a magnificent inn, where the owner welcomes them warmly. She says the inn is new and invites them to relax. Typhon is amazed at the elegance and beauty of the high-standard room. The owner of the inn mentions that the main attraction is its large open-air bar. Typhon's eyes light up with the suggestion, and Unibus readily accepts. The outdoor bath is spacious, serene, and surrounded by nature, Unibus plunges into hot water with a sigh of pure ecstasy. Your little fellow spirits of the earth happy in the water around you. A sudden sound of spatter makes him turn his head confused. He sees someone approaching the edge of the men's bath. It's Tifon, wrapped in a towel and smiling at him from above. He remembers it's the men's bath, but she says she's lonely. Asking him if he can join, and he reluctantly agrees. She dips her foot in warm and cozy water with a splash. Both relax, feeling the fatigue of the long day slowly fade away. Typhon comments on how much the fake hero resembles the real one. She says that despite the similarity, the aura of Unibus is completely different. Unibus remembers hearing that spirits and humans perceive things differently. Typhon watches him with a soft and understanding expression. She suddenly sees the shamed fake hero in a corner of the land. His face is swollen while the lander, reluctant, takes care of his wounds. He demands, arrogant, that the lander treat his wounds much faster. Nearby, residents gossip about how Eden hurt him. A resident presses a cold compress against his bruised face. The lander tells a young girl she doesn't have to help him. He holds her, demanding to know why she would dare challenge a hero. The angry villagers confront him for disturbing his patron deity. They threaten to make your rich family disown you and dump you. The arrogance of the false hero falls apart, his face contorted with fear. He bites his lip, realizing he's lost all his leverage. Defeated, he staggers toward the well, complaining that he is thirsty. Look at the opening of the well, his face darkened with frustration. Suddenly, the well erupts, throwing it up with a scream. Wet and terrified, he begs for someone to help him down. From their bathtub, Unibus and Typhon watch the geyser with fun. Typhon laughs better, saying that this is his greatest happiness. A sudden and brilliant idea arises in Typhon, his eyes gushing by surprise. She declares with great enthusiasm that she will wash Unibus back. Unibus questions his sudden change of attitude towards the task. She explains he's different from the other heroes she knew. She plays, insisting he comes out of the hot water. Unibus observes, hesitant, but unable to refuse his sincere offer. He sighs, realizing he has no choice but to accept her request. He sits on a stool while she kneels behind him, ready to begin. At first, she notices the thin lines of ancient scars crossing. Her joyful expression disappears, replaced by a growing horror. She sees all of that as a canvas of scars and the cursed mark. He remembers being used as bait and forced to open trapped trunks. Typhon's face is a mask of sadness in understanding his pain. He remembers his former boss, Gordian, who tormented him to relieve stress. Overpowered by emotion, she hugs him hard from behind. She sobs, asking why her body is so covered in terrible wounds. He says not to worry, for he cares more about spirits than himself. His unselfish words only deepen his pain and fierce resolution. She promises to erase her scars, starting with cleaning it carefully. She asks for the help of the spirits of the earth, who joyfully celebrate her. Unibus seems confused, without understanding what she intends to do. They approach him, playing and rubbing him with sponges and soap. It explodes in uncontrollable laughter, begging them to stop, because it tickles. The bath is filled with laughter, bubbles, and pure joy of healing. Later, an invigorated Unibus crosses traditional and quiet accommodation. He feels pleasantly tired and happy after the lively bath. You decide to prepare the bed before you get too sleepy. Open the bedroom door to fix the futon. He is shocked to find 7 beautiful women kneeling around the bed. They offer to entertain you as a way of thanking you for saving their village. Completely nervous, Unibus doesn't know how to react to them. A loud, angry scream coming from outside suddenly breaks the tension. The women begin to surround him by pulling his yukata. One of them suggestively loosens his own clothes to attract him. Frightened and panicking, Unibus desperately screams for help. A hand holds gently but firmly Yukata. His face is a pure panic mask while he screams again. With a rabid scream, the shoji door is violently torn in half. A strong gust of wind makes the 7 women fly away. Typhon stands before him with a fierce and protective expression. Unibus looks at her savior with a grateful and relieved smile. Typhon, dressed in a charming, timid yukata, introduces himself to an amazing Unibus. Unibus becomes hypnotized, gently murmuring his name while enjoying the scene. With a graceful move, her hands gather as she prepares to kneel. Typhon kneels formally, humiliating himself by claiming that he is an immoderate person, but asking for his favor. She looks at him, his radiant face with a shy smile and full of hope. Typhon announces with enthusiasm that he wishes to perform a yudaji for him. Unibus looks back at her, her expression a mask of complete confusion. A strong flushing covers the face of Typhon, his eyes shining with a timid determination. She quickly takes a stand on her knees, right in front of him. She insists, begging with a smile, eager for him to let her perform the yudagi. Unibus asks if she knows what that is. She answers with confidence that, of course, she knows. With an elegant gesture, she removes from her sleeve a small book, beautifully bound. She opens the glittering book entitled The Heart of the Spirit on the right page. The book's first instruction, accompanied by an illustration, is to offer a lap pillow. Typhoon happily caresses his lap, telling Unibus to lie down right there. Hesitant, Unibus supports her head in her lap while she consults the book. He asks if it's over, but she makes sure there's more to come. The second instruction in the book is to tell a story worthy of the night. Typhoon puts his finger on his chin, thinking about the kind of story he's gonna tell. While Unibus watches, she suddenly has an idea. With a scary expression, she starts a ghost story about a school portrait. The scary story ends up terrorizing her, and she screams that she just remembered her. Unibus realizes, with a serious expression, that she chose a ghost story. He feels a sudden impact when she falls off his lap with a bang. Typhoon is on the ground, comatosely exhausted and defeated by his own story. Unibus looks at his figure, still lying with an affectionate and gentle smile. His smile disappears, giving way to an expression of slight confusion while it does not move. Find out she fell into a deep sleep instantly, shrunk like a kitten. Carefully, he puts her in the futon, thanking your princess gently. Wish him good night while the stars shine brightly on the inn. The morning comes, and the sound of birds singing fills the air. Unibus wakes up and looks in the direction of where Typhon should be. He finds the room in a state of chaos, with a broken shoji screen. Typhoon is scattered on the floor, clearly having stirred up a lot during sleep. Unibus carefully grabs her in her lap, commenting on her poor posture when sleeping. The village chief shows up at the door, wishing him good morning. She smiles with understanding, commenting that they had a very fun night. The chief shows that the village reform has already begun. Eden guides the villagers, announcing that the next task would be a stone statue. Supported on Unibus's shoulder, Tifon watches the scene with a smug smile. Unibus realizes the new sign of welcome with an illustration of a happy Aiden. The inhabitants celebrate with enthusiasm as they destroy the ancient statue of the hero. The chief explains that the entire lives of the residents depend on the water from the well. Now they realize that Eden's happiness is directly linked to his own prosperity. The chief takes a deep bow, promising to worship Eden and whom she loves, Unibus. Unibus, ashamed of his reverence, quickly tells him to lift his head. Eden, the boss, agrees with a broad smile, full of teeth and cheerful. She asks them to say goodbye to Eden before leaving. While walking, Tifon teases him, saying she became a popular mascot character. Unibus just smiles, glad to know she's so well fallen. The chibi version of Tifon flashes and shows a sign of peace and agreement. They arrive at the cistern of the village, where Eden awaits them. Eden greets Unibus formally, holding a long and beautifully worked katana. She presents the legendary sacred sword of the Eden family, asking him to accept it. Tifon breathes deeply, shocked, recognizing the powerful artifact as Eden's sword. Eden explains that when disarmed, the blade becomes a sword of pure water. She nods, confirming that her immense power is capable of dividing the moon. Unibus asks why he should receive a sword that was denied even the hero. Eden reveals that Braben returned and threw a powerful poison into the cistern. Unibus is horrified to learn that Braben would poison the cistern for the second time. To protect the village, Eden absorbed the poison and went into a deep sleep. She explains that that's the reason the well dried completely. Seeing her purification dance confirmed to her that he was the worthy one. She begs him to accept the sword, which is his very essence, so that he can be with him. Tifon, with tears in his eyes, encourages Unibus to accept the present. Both Tifon and Iden look at him with weeping and pleading expressions. Unibus looks at the heavy blade, with an expression loaded with solemn resolution. He raises his eyes and promises to take good care of her. Eden smiles, with his eyes full of tears of gratitude and peace. She whispers she's happy as her physical form begins to disappear. Her body begins to dissolve into particles of light, leaving Tifon shocked. Eden happily declares that now she can stay with Unibus-sama forever. Tifon realizes with horror that delivering the sword means Iden will disappear. Unibus can only watch, calling her name as she fades. Eden gives him one last soft smile before he disappears completely. She appreciates their kindness while her form dissolves into a rain of light. Tifon reaches out, crying that they had just become friends. His broken-hearted screams echo throughout the beautiful mountain landscape. Eden turns to them, surprised by the sudden appearance. Typhon chokes on disbelief, pointing out she thought Iden was dead. Eden explains that although she was ready to die, being with Unibus made her too happy. Now, free from her well, she joyfully announces that she will move her dominion. Tifon murmurs with frustration, realizing that his dramatic mourning was in vain. Unibus laughs, full of joy and grateful that your friend is alive and well. The cover of the chapter shows the title of the manga on a piece of machinery. Elsewhere, the exiled Minister Gordian is panicking, murmuring that it cannot be true. He complains about the fact that Unibus became a minister after being fired. He cannot allow his hard-won position to be stolen by the Unibus. You know you need to do something to erase your past failures and save your reputation. It decides to achieve a great success with its newest invention, an electric barbecue. At the border, a luxurious outdoor banquet is prepared to welcome the King of Warswamp. The guards observe that despite the failed marriage, the demon subjugation festival continues. The click of the clamp signals that this important diplomatic banquet is about to begin. Gordian, the convinced minister of magic, appears with the tweezers in his hand, ready to receive. He officially welcomes the King of Warswamp, expressing his gratitude for his visit. Gordian boasts that he will personally grill the best local ingredients for the king. The King of Warswamp is intrigued, recognizing Gordian's fame as a great coach. Gordian explains that many in his country find it difficult to control the temperature of a barbecue. He proudly states that his new machine allows anyone to perfectly reproduce the Heros barbecue. He makes a gesture to the machine, inviting the king. The king agrees, eager to personally experience the innovative ignition barbecue. Leaning, he turns the button, and the machine starts to emit clicks and buzzes. Suddenly, it explodes into a huge ball of fire, with the lid being thrown up. Gordian and the king's assistants only observe in absolute horror and unbelief. The king is thrown by the blast, screaming as he is wrapped in flames. Your body spins in the air before you fall violently into the water. The royal guards are furious, immediately accusing the incident of a planned terrorist attack. Gordian desperately denies any guilt, insisting that everything worked perfectly during the tests. So he has a terrifying accomplishment. He stole the Unibus project, enraged the spirits who reside in him. The spirits of fire and wood, which he knows, will never forgive his transgression. The king's aide orders the guards to arrest Gordian, who retreats scared. Surprisingly calm, the king sends his men to wait a moment, wisely. He comments that even a world-renowned genius is capable of making mistakes. The king's aide looks at his monarch, confused with his strangely quiet posture. The king stands over Gordian, preparing to give his surprising judgment. He declares that this machine was not made by Gordian, but by Unibus. He claims he didn't know Unibus was planning such an ingenious assassination attempt. The king closes his eyes, reflecting on the true meaning behind this disastrous event. He confronts Gordian kneeling, observing that his name should be on the machine. The hero Braben arrives, telling Gordian to stop his act and confess his crime. Gordian looks up, shocked and terrified by the sudden and accusatory appearance of the hero. Braben knows that this incompetent minister is an obstacle that endangers his own reputation. Gordian realizes, with pure horror, that he was completely abandoned by everyone. In a blind panic, he desperately tries to think about what he can do. A sudden and absurd idea arises in your mind as a way of saving yourself. Braben remembers the delicious rabbit barbecues Unibus made during the journey. Gordian mimed, claiming that the explosion was a joke planned by Braben himself. Braben bursts out of anger, screaming at Gordian for his insolent and ridiculous claim. He advances, declaring that he himself will deal with this disrespectful man. Braben grabs Gordian by the collar, with his face a mask of pure and unconditional fury. He whispers a plan if Gordian admits guilt. He'll take responsibility for the strategy. Gordian gets completely confused, questioning what kind of strategy this could be. The king advises them to simply aggravate their country's youthful vigor. Braben and Gordian share a confused moment of silence before the king. Suddenly, they take on modern poses, screaming about the latest barbecue and its success. The three men do a synchronized and bizarre reverence, celebrating their false victory. The king's youthful expression disappears, replaced by a look of total contempt. He can't believe that the hero and the world's greatest coach are a complete mess. Gordian trembles with fear as Brabant grabs him, the king's words condemning them both. The king claims he intended to discuss business, such as the capture of Unibus. Brabant and Gordian realize they're gonna have to pretend this whole mess never happened. Brabant's anger finally explodes, and he starts brutally assaulting the minister. He yells at the insurgent, repeatedly telling him to die for his failure. Gordian shrinks to the ground while Brabant breathes heavily, exhausted from the brutal attack. He claims that although Gordian should be fired, it is not appropriate during a festival. Brabant lowers him, not just as a minister, but as the deputy chief of her old department. Gordian is completely devastated, his world and his ambitions crumbling into nothing. He walks the streets of the city, a broken and defeated man. You remember your son's innocent dream, that he would become a great minister. Imagine your subordinates mocking him for being lowered 2 positions. You decide to make a big turn before anyone realizes your shame. With renewed determination, he promises to work hard and regain his lost glory. Go back to your old department, trying to look confident. Listen to the celebration sound inside, and to listen. Looking through a crack in the door, trying to see what's going on. His subordinates are congratulating a Unibus Sama doll for becoming a minister. They claim they've always known Unibus would be a minister, not a man like Gordian. Gordian's face wriggles in a silent scream of pure anger and betrayal. He bursts into the room, demanding to know what they're doing in his seat. They coldly remind him that he is no longer the minister, but the deputy chief. When he asks how they knew, they explain that the same test revealed to them. Everyone was preparing to receive Unibus as their new and legitimate leader. Gordian screams that he is still their superior, regardless of the title. Suddenly, a flaming man named Kapali appears, scaring the angry Gordian. Gordian can only be speechless, staring at the smiling invader. Keppel calls him mocking Chief Aperi, scolding him for his disrespectful attitude. He grabs Gordian violently and throws him through the room in a show of dominance. Gordian grinds his teeth, swearing to make everyone pay for this humiliation. Keppel smiles threateningly, satisfied with Gordian's pathetic display of spirit. He reveals that while they all intimidated Unibus, Gordian was the head of the class. They decided to get rid of Gordian, knowing Unibus would be happy. Keppel declares that to atone for his sins, now he will intimidate Gordian. Gordian's face becomes a mask of pure, unmistakable terror before the threat. Keppel tells Gordian to understand his new position. Hell do all the dirty work. Order Gordian to start working, and the man's scream echoes from the building. The procession of the king of the war swamp crosses a rocky and desolate canyon. The king comments that the Heros expedition also fell into disgrace. Your helper informs you that they're approaching the border, and there's something on the outside. The king looks out the window with a surprised expression on his face. Your royal guards remain in a position of attention, awaiting your command. A message is rudely carved on the cliff. We're bad, but it's all Unibus' fault. The king's face wriggles with rage at this pathetic and childish slander. He arrives at Lake Rockwat, declaring he no longer has patience for apologies. The king orders the manager of the resort to immediately drop all signs of the hero. He orders that none of the offensive plates be left standing. The manager quietly informs that all plates have been removed. The king is confused by this, asking what might be happening. The manager, wearing a Unibus love shirt, asks if the king knows the Unibus. He explains that the man next to him is the celebrity who left a legend behind. The king is surprised, realizing that he is in the presence of the legendary Unibus. The resort manager tells the king that Unibus broke the Heros record. The king is informed that this is the same man who kidnapped the spirit bride. The crowd vehemently disapproves, insisting that the two were like lovers. They remember how Typhon bravely defended the Unibus of his mockery. The king remembers seeing the genuine and happy smiles between the two. He contrasts Typhon's radiant expression with his dark face from the past. When the carriage leaves, the king wonders who Unibus really is. During the trip, Typhon asks if it is safe to drink pond water. Unibus explains that spirits purify water, imbuing it with power. Typhon remembers that the Heros group did that and asks how it tasted. Unibus admits, in a low voice, that they never allowed him to drink. Curious for him, Typhon declares he wants to try it. Unibus agrees, remembering a place he visited on his past trips. They head towards the serene of the source, with Typhon vibrating with excitement. The disguised carriage lurks a deep path into the forest. Typhon says he's thirsty and can't wait to drink the spring water. Unibus explains that the sanctuary is difficult to find, for he himself had difficulties before. Suddenly, he sees a great heroic statue rising above the trees. He comments that the strange statue made it easy to locate the sanctuary. However, its expression quickly turns into confusion. A new and ostentatious cathedral was built right next to the old one. While he tries to understand what happened, Typhon happily greets him. The door of the oldest and smallest sanctuary creaks as it opens before them. An exhausted Noon, with deep dark circles, welcomes them tiredly. His tone becomes severe when he asks what the purpose of the visit is. Typhon smiles, explaining that they came to drink the water from the spring. The nun coldly declares that she does not allow the entry of those who have this purpose. Typhon insists that Unibus would never be violent with the spirits. She passionately declares that Unibus would never do anything like this. Typhon requires an explanation, but Unibus seems distracted by something. He notices a strange artificial playground in the courtyard. It also sees an impeccable bird's nest and other unused decorations. The site is full of desperate and artificial attempts to attract spirits. The nun, Typhon, and Unibus are at the polluted spring, with bubbles rising around them. Typhon complains that this is not what she imagined, while the nun turns cold. The nun recalls how the group of heroes cruelly used spring spirits as a target in a dark game. Typhon realizes with sadness that since that day, the spirits have remained apart, taken by fear. The nun describes her desperate and failed attempts to lure the spirits back with handmade ornaments. She explains that spring spirits are very shy, but that she patiently waited for them. In tears, he believes that everything is lost and that Unibus will never return to that place. Typhon gently tells the nun that he believes it's all just a big misunderstanding. Crying, the nun demands, in anger, to know how she could be mistaken. Her expression suddenly freezes in absolute shock as she looks beyond her guests. A close-up in your wide, unbelieving eye reflects the impossible vision you see. A huge and sparkling spring spirits flocked, completely involving Unibus in light. Taken by joy, the nun shouts that spring spirits have returned in overwhelming number. She stutters, unbelieving, observing that the spirits have been absent for so long. The shock is too much, and she repeats in despair, "Why?" while your mind spins in confusion. The nun faints, falling on the grass while Unibus asks if she's okay. A close-up shows the nun unwaking on the floor, completely taken by the miracle. Later, Unibus and Typhon take the nun to a simple room with several beds. She whispers in her sleep, begging the spirits not to leave her alone. Turn around in bed, begging you don't want to be alone anymore. The scene passes by, showing a cloudy and covered sky. Unibus offers the nun, now awakes, a glass of water, which she accepts with gratitude. She sits in bed and drinks, while Typhon watches her with a cheerful expression. She says she had a strange dream, in which the spirits longed for Unibus. He smiles with melancholy, saying that being forgiven by him, even in a dream, is a great happiness. The nun sincerely apologizes to Unibus for the rude and terrible things she said earlier. Unibus, a little baffled, tries to say that everything is fine and that she doesn't need to worry. With a warm smile, she invites you both to spend the night there. In the simple room, Unibus sits in bed, unable to sleep. He gets up quietly and leaves the dark room. Unibus is in the moonlit courtyard, now full of sparkling decorations and spirits. He realizes that one of the handmade ornaments is broken and begins to repair it gently. In the courtyard of the sanctuary, Unibus notes that spring spirits do not like bright and artificial things. He stands before a pile of decorations removed, while a nun watches him from the shadows. Unibus feels a close presence. His look becomes curious. He sees a shy little spirit hidden inside a simple wooden birdhouse. He smiles, realizing that she must have just been born, and reassures her that the bright objects have been removed. He tries to convince the tiny spirit, like a fairy, to leave, but she emerges trembling. The little creature is paralyzed with fear. Its entire body shakes uncontrollably. She retreats before the outstretched hand of Unibus, her face taken by terror. Looking at his gentle hand, the spirit has a sudden change of heart. She looks up to Unibus, who smiles at her with pure kindness. He asks if she's calmed down, making sure she's not an enemy. She gently touches her finger, testing her reaction with a delicate touch. Now completely confident, she caresses her fingers with a rhythmic and joyful movement. His expression lights up with a sudden and happy realization. Unibus smiles, telling the little spirit is not mad at her. She smiles radiantly, exclaiming with pure joy that she wants to be your friend. Unibus formally welcomes her, granting her the title of princess. Suddenly, he is surrounded by a sparkling cloud of countless other spring spirits. He declares it to be a happy meeting and asks to be greeted one by one. The spirits form a perfectly straight and bright line, flying in unison towards them. Unibus smiles, wrapped by happy spirits as he leads them back to the sanctuary. From a dark window, a pair of wide, shocked eyes watches the scene. The nun gasps in disbelief, realizing that spring spirits are finally returning. Your mind spins, trying to understand how this is happening to the man they told you they hated. Typhon shows up, explaining that Unibus is kind, and that's why all spirits love him. The nun realizes that Typhon is also a spirit, and Typhon introduces himself. The nun recognizes the name Typhon, gasping when she realizes that she is the princess of the spirits of the wind. Typhon confirms his real identity with a radiant and cheerful smile. Unibus, still covered by spirits, turns around, frightened by the commotion. He asks what happened, completely alien to the revelation behind him. Typhon remains proud, a little puzzled by the nun's reaction. The nun prostrates, repeatedly apologizing for her rudeness before royalty. The Siren worship, especially the spirits, who who fly around Unibus as moths attracted by light. Typhon explains the rigid social hierarchy of the world, telling the nun not to worry. She, radiant, tells Unibus that spring spirits declared their love for him. With a bright smile, she hugs him tight, exclaiming that she loves him too. The nun kneels on the ground, observing the scene with absolute dazzlement. She wonders aloud why Unibus is so loved, especially by such timid spirits. Typhon explains that his kindness exudes a scent similar to that of flowers, which attracts the nun. Moved by this revelation, the nun kneels deeply on the ground. She begs you to teach her how to call the spirits back to the sanctuary. Unibus looks at her, surprised by the sudden and desperate request. The nun raises her face with an expression full of sincere determination and hope. She explains that the rival cathedral plans to destroy the forest to build an entertainment district. If that happens, the spirits will lose their home, and their power is not enough. Touched by touching appeal, Unibus quietly agrees to help her. Typhon smiles warmly at the weeping and relieved nun, saying, "That's wonderful." The next day, Typhon explains that spring spirits do not like bright ornaments. The nun realizes that her attempts to please them were actually causing the opposite effect. Typhon asks what else they could do to help purify the spring water. The nun explains that, although the spirits will clean it, it will take 10 years. She closes her eyes, resigned to the slow and gradual healing process. Unibus lifts his finger, ready to offer a much faster solution. He summons all who wish to play and clean the spring to gather. A massive swarm of small spirits from the spring converges instantly to the tip of your finger. With a joyful cry, he invites them to play together. The spirits plunge into the water, cloudy and polluted, with a powerful splash. The nun observes quietly, astonished, while the water stirs with a magical light. Typhon smiles radiantly. Watching with charm the miraculous purification unfold before her, Unibus gently smiles as the water around it clears and begins to shine. In a bright flash, the once polluted spring becomes perfectly clear and pure. The nun falls to her knees, completely taken by the beauty of the scene. She laments her foolishness and immaturity, admitting that she was blind to the truth. He confesses that he always believed he knew the spirits better. Typhon gently caresses the head of the weeping nun in a gesture of solace. She reassures her, saying that true understanding can always be achieved. The nun agrees, recognizing the truth in Typhon's comforting words. Unibus adds that the original Santa Tess used to count each spirit individually. Typhon explains that being counted one by one makes spirits incredibly happy. Inspired, the nun asks if she could ever become a teacher like him. She clarifies that she means a teacher like Unibuskun, her hero. Typhon immediately declares that becoming as he is absolutely impossible for her. Unibus observes, confused and a little irritated by the firm statement. Typhon explains that Unibus is even more popular among wind spirits than she is. The two women begin a playful discussion, each claiming Unibus as their teacher. You're Unibus, trapped in the midst of sudden and intense admiration. Typhon and the nun lean in, calling in perfect sync, "Sensei." A new chapter begins by showing Unibus' skilled hands in action. The title of the chapter appears as Unibus builds a playground for spirit. Typhon expresses surprise when he discovers that Unibus is also a skilled carpenter. A little spirit asks if Unibus made the new cute toy for them. Typhon mocks, saying that the hero would only lie and take credit for it. Unibus raises the eyes of her work, not knowing how to respond to her comment. The nun confesses that she did not believe in Unibus when he spoke ill of the hero. She bows deeply in apologies for her past mistake, asking her to raise her head. She insists she won't back down, having made a terrible error of judgment. Typhon asks what she means, and Unibus mentions the great saint of the neighboring region. The scene changes to a workshop inside the shrine, full of tools. The workshop is full of furniture and building materials scattered. A large unfinished statue of a man with a heroic cloak is revealed. Typhon exclaims that the statue looks exactly like Braben, the hero. She asks why they're doing something like this. The nun explains that it is because of a contest against the cathedral to attract the greatest number of spirits. The King of Warswamp will come to judge the winner of the contest. She admits she used the hero's fame, feeling like I couldn't go on any other way. But now you understand that a hero statue has no real power. Typhon seems worried, wondering what they should do now. Suddenly, she cheers up and declares that the solution is quite simple. With a confident wink, she suggests making a statue of Unibus instead. Unibus is completely shocked and horrified by her incredibly daring suggestion. The nun cares, for the king will come to see the statue of the hero in a few days. Typhon argues that it is an obvious decision, since their real goal is to invoke the spirits. She tells the nun that everyone will work hard together to complete the task. Then she turns to the little spirits, asking if everyone agrees with her plan. Spring spirits explode in a chorus of enthusiastic and joyful applause. Convinced, the nun agrees to help build the statue of Unibus. Unibus, however, strictly refuses to help sculpt his own image. Typhon is shocked by his refusal and asks why he wouldn't like it. He explains it's embarrassing, but she points out Eden made one. She argues that her incredible accomplishments deserve to be recognized by everyone. She says he needs to be more assertive and show his wishes. After his passionate appeal, Unibus catches the chisel reluctantly. He also takes a lime, preparing to get the hard work started. With a sigh, tired of resignation, he agrees to help them. Typhon thanks you, saying you just need his help with the body. She smiles, confident she knows exactly what to do. She's delighted that everyone can build a statue of Unibus together. Unibus looks at his tools, thinking of working together with his friends. Typhon smiles, knowing that the spirits will be happy with the result. The body of the statue is complete, a perfect replica of the shape of Unibus. Typhon and the nun proudly declare that they will take care of the face sculpture. The first attempt results in a strange and square approach to a face. The finalized face is a bizarre, abstract, and comical failure. The statue is complete, a cubistic nightmare against a turbulent background. Typhon and the nuns look down on their monstrous creation. Unibus says it's okay, but Typhon yells his not. She declares that her art is a beast of love that cannot be contained. It explains that the sculpture is about digging what's already inside the stone. He's quiet. In front of his artistic speech, Typhon cries comically in front of the monstrous statue he helped create it. Unibus announces he has friends who can help them with the statue. Typhon and the nun observe with surprise and hope. A group of earth spirits appears, and Typhon realizes that they can help build. Typhon puts on a pair of sunglasses, ready to direct the construction of the statue. With a flower, she begins to issue artistic commands with dramatic gestures. He assumes a confident pose, radiating the authority of an experienced foreman. She tells Unibus that the nose should be more pronounced and the mouth fuller. The gentle nun arrives with a tray, offering everyone a tea break. Typhon accepts with joy, his artistic and serious posture crumbling instantly into a smile. The small spirits of spring and earth gather to enjoy the sugar cubes and tea. Everyone enjoys a quiet break, sharing snacks and company around Unibus. After the rest, the nun approaches Unibus with a serious request. Unibus listens, surprised by her sincere tone and formality. She confesses she wants to be able to interact with spirits like him. You admit you've always seen them as beings being captured with nets. But now, he realizes that he lends his powers with respect and wishes to learn how to do the same. Unibus listens attentively to his touching confession, his thoughtful expression. He starts explaining that the secret is not to use them. He says spirits like to be useful, but they don't open up to explorers. They are not parts to satisfy desires, but partners for the future. He concludes by saying that he simply wants the spirits around him to be smiling. His deep words leave Typhon, the nun, and all the spirits amazed. They begin to chant his name with increasing reverence from sensei to sama. Unibus is puzzled by sudden worship, raising his hands in protest. Beg them to stop, ashamed of so many intense and sudden compliments. Your request is received with warm and happy laughter from your new followers. Meanwhile, the rival cathedral has become a blatant and corrupt entertainment district. Its plaque proudly proclaims to be the original Spring Cathedral, a place of vice. The interim saint notes that her huge hero statue did not attract spirits. She knows that without them, she can never become the true great saint. A knock at the door announces the arrival of the weekly offer. Coldly, she invites the younger nuns into her luxurious office. Nervous, they present the miserable collection of coins of the week for her to accept. She fires them with a false blessing, saying they can go now. Once they're gone, she dumps the coins with a greedy noise. His long fingers scour the little pile of money with contempt. It raises a single coin, confirming your thoughts on the subject. She believes that spirits are naive and will be attracted to brilliant things. Dream of crushing Serene and expelling her holy mother. This hill, this status, this money, all this will fulfill your dreams. She takes a look at a locked chest, feeling the weight of her financial situation. When you open it, you find that you no longer have patrons and that money is not enough. With a sinister smile, he decides to bet everything on one last move. A contract reveals her desperate agreement. If she fails, she and 5 nuns will become slaves. An arrogant loan shark arrives with his goons, confirming that the transaction is complete. He delivered several large trunks full of the money she borrowed. With a manic smile, she opens the trunks, revealing piles of coins. She imagines building the greatest tourist attraction of all, a bright skyscraper. With this grand offer to the King of Warswamp, his victory is guaranteed. She visualizes men, women, and spirits gathering around her, ensuring success. The day of the contest comes, and the king prepares to make his judgment. The King of Warswamp announces that he is ready to hear your words. He comments on the impressive size of the Spring Cathedral statue. The nun of Serene humbly states that she understands what is really important. The interim saint mocks, saying that once revealed her statue, the other will be forgotten. The nun of Serene proudly claims that everyone worked hard to create her statue. The interim saint ridicules her, asking if she really thinks she can compete alone. The king, impatient, commands you to reveal both statues at once. The gentle nun holds the cloth. With a determined expression, the interim saint grabs her rope with a laugh of triumph. Together, they pull the strings, and the sheets fly in a dramatic revelation. The title page of the chapter announces the ambition of the great saint. A title card shows the king flanked by the hopeful nun and the mocking Saint Yi. The king's eyes spread in absolute and total shock at what he sees. Before him is a statue of Unibus, completely covered with sparkling spirits. Why is Unibus here? Exclaims the king in total unbelief. The nun asks the king if he knows his master, Unibus. The king admits he never met the man personally, until now. The nun smiles with pride, saying that her master is a wonderful person. The king realizes that no human has ever been so loved by spirits. He watches carefully, a flash of understanding in his eyes when agreeing. He sees that spirits have the same expression of ecstasy that Typhon had one day. The fake Santa screams that it's a fake, a cheap trick. She points out, stating that she will capture the spirits with a net personally. She does not realize that such an act will enrage the spring spirits. A sudden wind stirs the trees, and the whole forest seems to moan. The interim saint feels the change in the atmosphere, her confidence wavering. His face twitches in an arrogant smile as he perceives the spirits gathering. She raises her arms, believing that the spirits are responding to her call. Little spirits like butterflies begin to fill the sky above the forest. A royal guard points out, amazed, asking what that impressive amount is. The holy laugh, convinced they came because of their magnificent statue of the hero. "Come on, spirits!" exclaims with a triumphant and greedy laugh. She points to the statue of Unibus, ordering them to turn it into garbage. The spirits pass through it, not going towards the statue, but to it. A massive burst of energy reaches its grand statue of the hero. Santa screams in horror, realizing they're attacking the wrong person. She begs them to stop while her statue crumbles to dust. He falls to his knees, crying for help, while his plans break apart. In a single instant, you see your whole future crumble. The attack of the spirits continues, now directed to the cathedral itself. The extravagant buildings begin to tremble and collapse under the spiritual assault. The saint only observes in absolute and silent horror. Your sanctuary, symbol of your greed, is completely destroyed. She remains kneeling, alone, amid the ruins of her failed ambition. Your face wriggles in a mask of pure despair as you unleash a wailing. A soldier runs to the king, asking if he is unharmed. He confirms it. Then she notices the other nuns approaching, calling for her holy mother. They kneel before her, admitting they were wrong to follow the false saint. The nun observes, with her heart filled with a new sense of purpose. She declares that they will now live together with the spirits, following the teachings of Unibus. The other nuns agree, ready to leave their mistakes behind. The dishonored saint screams in fury, refusing to forgive the nuns for abandoning her. Your face twitches in madness. She promises to sell them all to ensure her own escape. She points to the other nuns, offering them to the loan shark approaching. The muscle loan shark appears, demanding the saints who were given as collateral. In a panic, the saint shouts that all the women present are the ones he seeks. The loan shark's henchman notes that the nuns are very beautiful and will pay a good price. With a malicious laugh, he says hell take them to a very special place. An authoritarian voice suddenly orders them to wait, causing the brutes to become surprised. The king of the war swamp appears with his guard, forbidding them from taking the nuns. He severely warns loan sharks who will not allow them to touch these women. The loan shark stutters, trying to protest the king's interference. He presents the contract, pointing out that all the saints of the cathedral were given as collateral. The king examines the document, quietly confirming that it is exactly what is written. However, it reveals a loophole. These nuns now belong to the Sarians, not the cathedral. The loan shark realizes that the only person left to charge is the great acting saint herself. Amid the ruins of her ambition, the face of the saint is filled with pure terror. She screams in disbelief, realizing she's the only one left to be taken. The loan shark sighs in resignation and orders his men to take her. Thrown into a cage, she grabs the bars, swears she'll make everyone pay. The caged wagon moves away, leaving the nuns now free, watching their departure. The king announces that although the outcome was unexpected, the winner of the contest is clear. The nun of Sarian humbly declares that victory belongs to her master. With a radiant smile of pure joy, she simply replies, "Yes." The king and his entourage are warmly welcomed in the humble village of Sarian. Inside, the shrine is simple and peaceful, anchored by a large and elegant statue. The king comments on the beautiful and rustic place and asks to remain for a few days. Unibus and Typhon spy behind a door, planning a silent match. Unibus tells Typhon to tell Santa they're leaving. He whispers that they are still being pursued and need to escape undetected. Typhon bursts into laughter, complaining that the whisper tickles his ear. Forgetting all the subtlety, she calls the nun out loud. She announces their departure, explaining that they're in the middle of their honeymoon. The nun smiles with complicity, commenting on the constant and immutable bond between them. Typhon responds with a joyful sign of peace. The nun promises to create a similar bond of sincere trust with the spring spirits. Typhon observes her with a soft and encouraging expression. She assures the nun that she is capable, offering her personal guarantee. Then she turns to Unibus, asking if Sensei Unibus agrees. Unibus smiles quietly in accordance with his words. The nun is standing by the window, surrounded by the soft light of the spirits. Little fairy-like spirits fly around their hands, which are united in prayer. She waved farewell from the sanctuary, while the carriage of Unibus and Typhon departs. The nun and her sisters now walk happily through the sanctuary garden. They smile in peace, with their home restored and surrounded by friendly spirits. Unibus lurks on the side of the carriage with a cautious expression. He looks back at the journey with a gentle and reflective smile. The nuns live in joyful harmony with the spring spirits, with the sanctuary saved. In the distance, a large property is visible among the trees. Unibus notes that they are close to the capital of the war swamp, with Contival just ahead. He alerts Typhon to be careful, because wanted posters are probably circulating. Typhon strongly suggests that they disguise themselves before entering the city. Her first attempt is ridiculous. Unibus points out he's very suspicious. Then she appears dressed as a dancer, asking if she is suitable for the role. She makes a gesture toward the city, commenting excitedly on the music she can hear. Unibus realizes, surprised, that the Festival of Heroes is happening at that moment. Typhon celebrates, ready to join the dance at the festival. Unibus immediately rejects the idea, saying that this is completely out of the question. He remembers dancing would totally ruin the purpose of the disguise. Typhon has an idea, and suggests Unibus also changes clothes. She explains that his work clothes are very easy to recognize. Unibus agrees, realizing that his outfit would be an obvious clue on a wanted poster. Typhon approaches with a naughty, determined smile. She claims triumphantly that she will choose his new outfit. Unibus shows up with a flashy rapper look, complaining it's exaggerated look. He asks if he needs to play the trumpet-like object while dancing. Typhon makes sure he doesn't look suspicious and encourages him to come along. Unibus casts a severe look, warning that there will be absolutely no dancing. They arrive at the capital of the War Swamp, where a dance competition is at full speed. Ignoring his warning, Typhon jumps into the air with a cheery scream. With a wink and a smile, she says, excited, "Let's dance." Unibus murmurs that she is not hearing anything while she dances on the roof of the carriage. The crowd loves her performance, vibrating for the cute girl with incredible moves. She poses, feeling on top of the world. Unibus is nervous in the driver's seat, holding the reins. A man in the audience to look at some posters on a nearby wall. He sees the grotesque and defamatory posters of Wanted with the faces of Unibus and Typhon. Another man watches Typhon dance and then turns to look at the posters. He narrows his eyes, comparing the rough drawing with the real people in the carriage. His eyes spread as he recognized Unibus in disguise. Unibus starts sweating, realizing that his identity has been discovered and that that's bad. Without being impressed by the posters, the crowd continues to applaud Typhon. Unibus is sitting, anxious, holding tight the reins of the mechanical horse. Typhon leans over and asks him to dance, but he refuses. Tell her to stop and look at the Wanted posters around. She finally sees them, glued all over the brick wall nearby, and confirms that the posters are all over the city. Typhon is shocked and exclaims that the image looks nothing like Unibus. She gets angry, saying she looks more like the hero trying to attack her. His expression turns into a cold fury, considering that unforgivable. Unibus prevents her quickly as she prepares to jump and rip the posters off the wall. He reminds her that deprecating the posters is a crime and that they should simply ignore them. Typhon turns with a kiss, saying it's okay if she just dances. A certain brightness appears in your big, expressive eyes. She sits with her arms crossed, reluctantly agreeing to behave for the time being. Suddenly, she leans closer, saying that being bold draws less attention. With a determined scream, she jumps out of the carriage towards the main stage. Unibus sighs, with a slight smile on her face, perhaps realizing she's right. The main event of the Heroes Festival, the War Swamp Dance Competition, is full of spectators. A great track proudly announces the War Swamp Dance Competition for the enthusiastic crowd. In the capital city of War Swamp, the main event of the Heroes Festival is underway. An animated host stirs the crowd for the War Swamp Dance Competition. The grand prize for the winning team is a luxurious horse-drawn carriage. Typhon, dressed in a dancing costume, goes on stage boldly, surprising the public. The presenter is immediately delighted and declares her a visual prize winner. Unibus, disguised as a rapper, is amazed by Typhon's incredible boldness. With confidence, Typhon informs the host that she is a skilled dancer and will certainly win. The host is impressed, noting that she has already declared victory before even performing. The crowd, infected by her confidence, roars in excitement and expectation. The host tells her to get ready and call her support band. Typhon gets confused because he's never heard the term support band before. He explains that you can't dance without music and points to the musicians who are waiting. He presents modern spiritualizers, popular electric instruments among young people. Backstage, Typhon meets Unibus. With a concerned expression, she gently calls her name. She asks what to do, admitting she didn't know a band was needed. Confess your dream of life. One day to dance with humans in the outside world. I thought marrying the hero would give you that freedom, but it was never allowed. With tears in her eyes, she begs Unibus to help her realize her dream. Unibus remembers that wind spirits love to dance. A joy that was denied to Typhon. He remembers how they told her dancing was a cruel act for a princess. His determination strengthens, and he swears to do whatever it takes to get her on stage. Typhon is moved by his unwavering promise to help her. Outside, the music of the dance competition continues to fill the town square. Typhon informs Unibus has managed to postpone their turn. They sit together behind the scenes, thinking Unibus, while considering their options. Typhon lowers his look. His expression mixes anxiety and determination. Unibus apologizes for worrying her, but she quickly reassures him. She states with conviction that she will never give it up for the spirits. She faces him with a new force, her concern replaced by determination. With a little smile, she says Hez the complete opposite of the hero. The hero, she explains, believes is number one and never gives up. But she knows that, to the spirits, Unibus is the true number one hero. She tells him not to worry about her and just sit and watch. Playing with herself, she says, "Lady, don't just stand there." With a cheery scream, she jumps energetically over a nearby bed. But you're sitting on something suspicious. Unibus discovers a great object under a sheet, wondering what it could be. It reveals an ancient, dusty phonograph, also known as a sound box. He observes its excellent construction and notes that the internal mechanisms appear to be intact. Scratch your chin, wondering if it could be a rare device manufactured by Dudra. An incorporeal voice suddenly speaks to him from inside the phonograph. Twisted spirits like trees emerge and ask if he knows the Dudra. Unibus confirms that he respects them as master carpenters, which pleases them. The Dudra spirits lament that before they made humans dance, but now they have been forgotten. Unibus looks at ancient spirits with a kind and understanding expression. He asks them to play his music once again, with him as an operator. The spirits call him a curious person, since modern youths show no interest in them. He explains that it's because of Typhon, because he wants to see you on stage again. Typhon is thrilled by the plan, exclaiming how wonderful he is. She tells the ancient spirits with enthusiasm that she wants to dance with them. Enchanted by his sincerity, the spirits Dudra happily agree with his request. The ancient spirits smile, their wooden faces wrinkled with a new purpose. One of them comments on how incredibly lovely Typhon is. A stage assistant takes one last cleanup on stage. Preparing him for the next number, he calls the next artist to prepare. The host announces the final act, the group of dancers of the wind. Unibus and Typhon fight to position the heavy, old phonograph. The audience murmurs in confusion. A man recognizes the apparatus of the times of his youth. They call the phonograph old-fashioned, encouraging Typhon to use a spiritualizer. Typhon gently grabs the microphone from the presenter's hand. She smiles reassuringly, telling the crowd not to worry about anything. Announces that legendary DJ Unibus will play on the best stage of all time. The audience is skeptical because they've never heard of this DJ Unibus. Unibus, visibly nervous, prepares to operate the complex-looking phonograph. A drop of sweat runs down his face as he concentrates heavily on the device. One of the spirits, Duda, hiding inside the phonograph, tells him not to get so nervous. The spirits ask him to leave everything to them because they are excited to play. Unibus outlines a little confident smile. Your nerves finally calm down. Typhon turns to him from the front of the stage, calling his name. With a bright and grateful smile, she offers her sincere thanks. Unibus reciprocates the smile, saying, "It is still early for thanks." He drops the needle on the disc hard, stating, "Let's get started." An illustration shows DJ Unibus in his phonograph, ready to start the show. The title page displays Typhon in a graceful and fluid dance pose. The audience observes with absolute attention as the first notes of the song begin to play. Typhon starts his dance. With long hair and ribbons spinning next to your moves. Unibus, powered by music, operates the controls with an amazing skill. The Dudra spirits are impressed, praising their magnificent technique and arrangement. One of them asks if this is really the first time he's done it. Unibus smiles, explaining that the device is like a toy he had as a child. A flashback shows a young Unibus, who only had spirits as friends, discovering a phonograph. He remembers the father of modern music, a former colleague of Gordian, who created Spiritnizer. It is radiant to see that old phonograph now touches the hearts of modern people. A broad and happy smile spreads in his face as he gets lost in music. Typhon continues to dance with speed, feeling the energy of the enchanted audience. Your dance is the perfect expression of pure joy. The audience is completely involved in the performance, vibrating and dancing together. Typhon flies through the air, his performance reaching a magical climax under the stars. The audience looks up, with faces taken by a deep dazzle and admiration. She takes on one last graceful pose as the last note of the song fades. Unibus, sweaty but happy, observes the incredible scene that helped create. The crowd is paralyzed in a moment of silence and breathless fascination. Typhon raises his fist in triumph before the audience, who acclaims with enthusiasm. The crowd explodes in praise of music, dance, phonograph, and DJ Unibus. Typhon, gasping and sweaty, radiates pure and genuine happiness. The presenter declares that there is no need for judgment. The winner is evident. On stage, Typhon thanks everyone, saying he had a wonderful time dancing with them. She gives special thanks to the people who have provided this incredible time. The Dutra spirits gathered in the phonograph thank Unibus in retribution. Crying for joy, they say it's really good to live a long life. Unibus shares a moment with the spirits Dutra, who thank you for this joyful reunion. On the main stage, the host prepares to deliver the grand prize to the winners of the competition. Typhon, surprise, politely informs the host that you don't need the award. She explains that in return, there's something she'd like to ask everyone. The presenter, intrigued by her request, kindly offers her the microphone to address the crowd. Typhon dramatically points his finger at a nearby warning board, covered by defamatory wanted posters. She announces that the people portrayed on these posters are actually herself and Unibus. Unibus, still disguised as rapper, observes in absolute shock at the sudden revelation. The crowd murmurs in disbelief, realizing that the wanted man is there, among them. Typhon presents himself as the spiritual bride, clarifying that she was never really kidnapped. She passionately denounces the hero for treating the spirits as slaves and trapping them with collars. With tears in his eyes, he confesses that all he wants is to be with Unibus. She adds she just wants everyone in town to know the truth. He ends up saying that's all, leaving the crowd to process his emotional appeal. The audience is moved, realizing that the wanted poster must be a lie after the presentation. One man declares his support for the couple, and many others quickly join him. A young man destroys the warning board, calling it a protest against government lies. He incites the crowd, promising to rip off every last wanted poster in town. The city explodes in a chaotic protest as citizens begin to run through the streets. A protester pushes a city guard, telling him to shut up about the law. The protest quickly turns into a complete riot, with citizens clashing with the guards. Typhon observes the chaos that triggered his face, a mask of pure horror. Unibos and Typhon face each other, trapped in the midst of the growing confusion. By panicking, Typhon wonders what they should do now that things are completely out of control. Unibos observes in dark silence, while a desperate plan already forms in his mind. He explains that if the protesters are arrested, he'll have to turn himself in it. Typhon is horrified by Unibus' willingness to sacrifice himself to protect Protestants. Gently, Unibus claims that, given the circumstances, this is the only choice left. Suddenly, the extravagant host stands among them, with his arms open in a grand gesture. He says surrendering isn't an option he'll allow. With confidence, instruct them to leave everything to him and make a spectacular escape. Unibus starts protesting, but the host interrupts it quickly, kidding. He comments that he's always rooting for people who are about to be arrested. He reassures Unibus, saying that everyone agrees with Typhon's feelings and is fighting for them. With a grand gesture, he reveals his elaborate escape plan for the beloved couple. A beautiful carriage decorated with flowers and their names are ready for departure. The announcer declares that the entire Warswamp Kingdom is rooting for their happiness. Unibus is speechless, completely stunned by the sudden and supportive turn of events. He apologizes as Typhon pulls him, starting the triumphant escape from the city. They run through the streets, escorted by a huge crowd of new allies who applaud them. The announcer incites the people, saying that the world is full of lies that need to be destroyed. He proclaims himself the greatest master of ceremonies in the world, ready to lead the revolution personally. Then he throws himself in the middle of a mosh pit formed by city guards, creating a distraction. Unibus and Typhon follow in their new carriage, guided by the mechanical horse Trance. They look back, observing the chaotic and welcoming scene they leave behind. The streets of the city are full of citizens who formed a guard of honor for them. People shout their names, wishing happiness on the journey they begin together. Typhon lowers his gaze, with the expression suddenly taken by guilt and sadness. She whispers that all this is her fault, taking responsibility for the riots that took over the city. Unibus calls her name softly, trying to get her attention and comfort her. He turns to her and asks her to look at the crowd that applauds them. Thank you for clarifying the misunderstanding and showing everyone the real reality. Typhon raises his face, and a single tear of hope slides through his cheek. Her face lights up with a radiant smile, marked by tears of pure and absolute joy. While the carriage leaves, Typhon announces his next and final destination, Cantoval,